Okay, so this video is just to shortly go over this page that helps you with intervals and t-tests with your conditions and things. And so what we have first is that on the left, these are your conditions. It actually says the wrong thing on the top. So we have our conditions independent if it's one sample, two sample, or paired. Paired is chapter 24. We'll learn about that later. But these are the conditions you need, and then these are the three, and then also nearly normal. So it looks like you're supposed to look at the histogram or box plot for each. If it's paired, again, we'll talk about that later. And then the last thing is, if it's over 30, it really doesn't matter what it looks like, so you don't even have to look. Okay, so if we look at the second thing, this is how you use your calculator. So if you're going to run a sample t-test, right, you are going to go stat calc and hit number 2, t-test. And then from there, you guys have to decide whether or not you're using data, like a list that you plugged in, or whether you have stats. If you have data, the data needs to be listed in L1. If you had stats, then it prompts you to put in the stats. All right, if you're doing a 2-sample test, then it's the same stat, go over to test, and you choose the 2-sample t-test. We'll talk about paired later in chapter 24. And then interval, again, one sample, you're choosing number 8, a t-interval. And again, you'll have to choose whether you're using data or stats. And then a 2-sample, you're choosing number 10, which is 0. Okay. All right, so once you have all that in, you're going to get these printouts. Let's look at this one. And so right here, if you run just a 1-sample t-test, it actually will calculate your t-value. Remember, we were having to do that, but it's going to calculate it. Right here, that's your t-value. That's how many tick marks away it is. Okay? This one right here, that's your p-value. Let's see if I can move that. It's not going to let me move it. So that right here, let me see. That is your p-value right there. Okay? This one right here, this is your mean. So anything with a bar above it is your mean. And then right here, this one, that's an eraser. This one right here, this is your standard deviation. Okay? And so that's my p-value, my mean, my standard deviation, and then my sample size. And remember, for t-test, your sample size is, your df is n-1. All right, for 2-sample t-test, you have to decide if it's greater than, less than. Same thing right here. This one is going to be your t-score. Right here, that's your t-score. What's going on there? Change fonts, I don't know. Okay, and then we have our p-value right here. That's our p-value. And then this is right here where you find your degrees of freedom. Okay. If you scroll down, it will continue to tell you all your other stuff. Okay. So that's how you read your printout. And then up here, let's go back up here. If you had to calculate your t-score by hand, it's right here, your value minus mean. But remember, your calculator does it, and your calculator, your t-score, it says t equals. Here's the 3 different ways that you calculate your standard deviation. And again, we have not learned about pairs. You'll learn about that later. And then remember, these are the parameters. You have to list your mean, your standard error, which you find using these formulas up here, and then your degrees of freedom. Okay. So hopefully that helps. Remember, it's stat, and you go over to test, and you'll be able to run all your functions.